Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth. Nam mô Saranto Suche Doye, Alahadi Samyo Samputosye. Nam mô Saranto Suche Doye, Alahadi Samyo Samputosye. Namo Saranto Suche Doye, Alahadi Samyo Samputosye. Together, the unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Shenhua, all good knowing advisors, Amitofo. Okay, now we do section 1. Section 1 is about, after finishing the preface, we start with describing the fruitions of practice. All right? Section 1 is about leaving home and becoming an arhat. This is a dharma that is new to mankind. The Buddha said, people who take leave of their families and go forth from the householder's life, who know the mind and penetrate to its origin, and who understand the unconditioned Dharma, are called Shramanas. Take leave of families. Why did the Buddha create that kind of Dharma for us? Because families are truly what binds us. Okay? Go home. You have to take care of your dogs. Children require your attention. Your spouse has to be fed and entertained. So the families are really what ties you down. So if you are in a position to be able to leave the family, that means that you have the ability to detach from your debts, a lot of your attachments. Okay? Any violent objection to that? Yes. Everyone. What are you talking about?
Aren't you getting the responsibilities toward the family?
You have to differentiate. That's a good question. Am I knocking families? Am I saying families are bad for business? Is that a good paraphrasing on your question? Am I shirking my responsibilities towards my family? Is that what I'm promoting? You have to differentiate. When you listen to Dharma, you have to differentiate between what the Dharma talks about and where you're coming from. Okay, where you're coming from, you come from a respectable person, a respectable family, a respectable person who's predicated upon taking care of his or her family. Right? That's the right thing to do. Versus the fact here that the Sutra describes that families are really what ties you down. You have to differentiate between that. Okay? It's not advocating you should not fulfill your responsibilities towards your family. In contrast, it merely points out to us that yes, while you're fulfilling your responsibilities, think about what you're doing. You're paying off your debts. Aren't you? Or you're accumulating it. Good point. But practically, the practical thing is that you have to differentiate the two. That is, families represent a group of conditions that bind us and where we are. Very difficult to escape. Okay? Wherever you go, you have to think about, I have to cook for your husband, or you have to go and pick up your daughter from school. Okay, you have to call your mother. Okay? All those things are what keeps us caught and restricts our ability to do things. We do what we must. Where in here do you see things that says you should not take care of your family? Is that what the sutra says? It says, take leave of the families and go forth from the householder's life. Not everyone can make that choice. Why is that? Because we cannot let go of our families. Folks, that's the real reason behind it. We can't let go. The caveman, after he knocked the woman on her head and dragged her off by her hair, okay, started out as a fun game, a fun thing to do. And he brought her home, and guess what happens to him? He became attached to his wife. He can't let go of her. That's what happened to your ancestors and my ancestors. Happened in Vietnam, happened in America, happened in China, in India, in the East, in the Middle East. Same thing. We cannot let go of our family.
50% of Americans divorce, they've let go.
And that's because why? Why? Because they cannot face the failure. I'm really piling it, am I not? First of all, I'm knocking your family. Now I'm knocking divorcees. No, think about it. You divorce because you cannot face your failure. Your own personal failure, folks. That's why those of you who are still married and have been married for a long time, I applaud you. You're very tough. You can handle it. Disagreement?
Things change. You haven't been handled it 40 years, you got 41.
Yeah, and eventually you will reach a breaking point. And then you say, I can't take this anymore. That's what? Failure. No matter what you look at it. Okay?
Do blessings run out for them?
Yeah.
Is that a running out of blessings?
It is a matter of...
Because your patience are ending.
It hurts. It hurts. Okay? Suffering. You cannot take the suffering. Okay? The family represents pleasure and suffering combined together. If at any point in time the suffering is more than the pleasure you take out of it, you have to let go. You have to sever yourself from that. All right? That's one of the reasons that allow people to leave the home life, by the way. They cannot take it anymore. But that's a very lousy reason to do that. Okay? It's running away from your troubles. Running away from your failure. That's not Mahayana. Mahayana, we advocate looking at your failure right on the head. Hit the nail right on the head. Do not dance around it. Do not tiptoe around it. Whatever problem you have, look at it, face it, confront it. Don't run away from it. You leave the family life because you make a choice. Because you say, okay, I've done my responsibilities. Okay, I've done my part of my responsibilities. I fulfilled my obligations. Now it's time for me to move on. That's why you leave the family life. Not because you run away from your responsibilities. Okay? So, leaving the home life is not for every one of us. Okay? It's not meant for everyone to leave the home life. In Mahayana, you advocate taking care of your family. Okay? Doing your best to take care of your family. Fulfill your obligations. Because when you get married, you make a promise. You say, I'm going to try to be with you the rest of my life through thick and thin. That's a promise you made. Okay? You have to fulfill that promise. That, to me, is what living is about. Fulfilling your promises, the promises you make to others. Okay? This is even a higher level than responsibilities. Think about it. Responsibility sometimes is because you're bound to, because you bring a child into this life, this world. You have to take care of him or her until she can take care of herself. Okay? A promise is more conceptual. Okay? But that's what differentiates us humans from a lower form of life. Think about it. Animals don't make promises. We make promises. So, in terms of, so not all of us is able to lead the families. Those who can lead the families are very, very fortunate because they're in a position where they can sever what ties them. You disagree with that? Yes.
My father left his family after 31 years of marriage to lead a new life.
Yes.
I do not consider that to be the right thing.
That's a choice of an old life versus a new life. Okay?
He made a selfish decision which destroyed the emotions of the whole family.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens.
And got a 29-year-old wife.
That's what men like to do.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. And now women are beginning to do that too. If you can afford it. You have a chance, you have the opportunity. That's what people do. I'm sorry. Okay? But it does not make it right either. But what leading the families here that's mentioned in Sutra is to become a left home person, not for another wife. Okay? To become a shramana. That's what the last word. You leave the home life because this is a Buddhist dharma that you choose to practice. Okay? This is a kind of lifestyle you choose to lead, which is drastically different from a normal kind of lifestyle. Okay? This is not the same as leaving the home life and become a left home person is not the same as leaving your present wife and getting a younger one, or leaving the current husband and get a younger man. It's not that. Okay?
This is deeper. No.
But yes, it's a very, very good point. Okay, it's a personal choice, and they've been exposed to that, and they say, okay, this is the kind of things I want to concentrate on doing. Okay, becoming a left home person and practice this Dharma here when I have a chance here. But you have to realize that what Janine talked about is when you do that, you do create problems for others. We do realize it. Okay, this is a big problem. Okay, now it's probably the same kind of intensity when you think about it, Janine, as what happened to you and your mother. Okay, because it's a shock for the people who are left behind. This is a fact, folks. This is what we're very sensitive about. In China, you cannot leave the home life until you get your parents' permission, by the way. No matter how old you are. It's a very wonderful tradition. At first, when I heard about it, I thought, you're a mature, an old person, you're 60 years old, your mother is 80 years old, you still have to have her permission to lead the home life? What nonsense is that? This is America. But what you just raised really addresses that concern right there. You see why? Because the people who shave their head and become monks and nuns, they're creating a shock on the people who are left behind. Okay? Because practically these people are severing the ties of familial ties. You have to realize it. I don't have a mother anymore. I don't have a father anymore. I may address them, call them my father and my mother, because from your perspective, that's how I relate to you. But these left home people, they don't have families anymore. That's what it means. It's meant by leaving the families.
And that's a harder, it was more personal.
Yes.
You would feel better if somebody left to become a religious person than somebody that left to be with a twin.
Yeah, sure. But it creates a shock because the family members are shocked and they don't like it. Just think about it. If you ever, any of those of you who are not vegetarian yet, the moment you decide to become vegetarian, okay, your friends, your family members will be so shocked and so offended.
That's right.
They become offended, believe me. So you're too good for me now, okay? I eat meat and you don't eat meat. I'm inferior in what sense? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay? You may not be saying it, but if the way you act, the way you eat, are telling me that I'm simply cannot let, you're superior. It's offensive. Okay? Now, living the home life involves more than eating vegetarian. Think about it. So it's very shocking for the people who are left behind. Okay?
And if everyone did that, civilization would break down.
And that's why not everyone can become monks and nuns. Okay? Not everyone can. I would want to, yeah. It's not for you. Sometimes it's more important, even for a lot of people who wanted to lead the home life, would ask my Venerable Shenhua, and he said, no, you can't. You have to, what are you going to do about your husband?
So the Sutra is not saying we should strive to be Shavas.
No, not at all.
Just special people.
Yeah, it says people here who take leave of the families and so and so and so, okay, are called Shramanas. It's not saying all of you people should leave the families and go forth from the householder's wife. Let go of your miserable life. That kind of thing. No, the sutra is very clear. Only those people who can take leave of the families and practice Dharma are called Shramanas. And not everyone can. Who's going to take care of your mother who depends on your support right now? What kind of person is the Buddha who advocating you should ignore your mother and your father and go and attain your bliss and attain your own liberation and never mind by anyone else? There's no such a dharma in Buddhism. That's a valid point.
Is it easier if you have brothers and sisters?
No. What he asks is very, very, very valid point. I am very, very grateful for that question. He says, that's what the Buddha did. He abandoned his father. And his wife. And made his wife pregnant before he left. Just before he left, pregnant. That's what the Buddha did. Okay? So, in some sense, okay, from that perspective, the Buddha failed his family. Alright? He failed his family. That's true.
Because he left an heir to take them.
No. He was a crown prince, right? He had a wife. He promised to take care of her until death. Okay? And then before he left, his wife said, honey, I'd like to carry your child. He said, okay, carry my child. Okay? That's what he did. He used his spiritual powers to impregnate her. Okay? And then he never even said goodbye to his mother and his father. Never asked, because his mother and father would have never given him permission anyway. Okay? So he failed his family. He failed his parents. He abandoned his own lineage. Why? Because he's a special case. What kind of excuse is that? Because he has to do those things so that he can save his family. No. Bruce's point is so good because it's a wonderful thing. I think it's going to make a lot of Dharma masters stumble right there. Okay, because he's a failure under worldly standards.
But he's fulfilling a greater responsibility.
No, he failed his parents first.
And then if they say,
How can he then? How dare he come turn around and tell us that we can leave our family and then become brahmanas? Okay. So that's the next question. Because when the Buddha lectured this, when the Buddha said this, okay, that is before he came back and saved his family, right? And that's the Buddha state, by the way.
The king sent men out to get him and bring him back.
Yeah, and he refused.
And he refused to come.
Right, because he was a Shramana then, so he could refuse. But before that, before he became a Shramana, he failed his family. Okay? But that's a very special condition in the sense that he has to fail them first before he can liberate them, he can save them. Because by the time his father died, the three-rise king is his father. His father died as what? As a third stage arhat. And then the Buddha sent Venerable Maha Moggallana over to talk Dharma his dying father, and his father became an arhat, fourth stage arhat. So his father became a sage, became an arhat. All right. His mother is Lady Maya. Okay, died 7 days after she gave birth to him. Okay, and she went up to the heaven, the heavens. The Buddha, after the Buddha became enlightened, he went up to the heavens to speak Dharma to her. Excuse me. Okay, his mother actually, Lady Maya, actually is a bodhisattva. But anyway, and then his wife later on left home life and became a nun. There's a wonderful story behind it. I tell you that. Huh? She was the first nun. No. She was his aunt was the first nun, not his wife. Okay. What happened is the Purize king is a very naughty man. He married both sisters. Lady Maya, the Buddha's mother, and her younger sister. You know that?
At the same time?
Yeah. He married them both at the same time. Maybe not at the same time, but he married them both.
Like it was.
Okay. And then when Lady Maya gave birth to the Buddha and Lady Maya died 7 days afterwards, then what happened is that his younger sister, her name, I forgot her name. Okay. Lady Maya, younger sister, then gave up her own son by the same king, by the same husband, who is Venerable Ananda. Ananda is the son of his younger sisters, her younger sister. And so she gave up Ananda, taking care of Ananda, so that she can take care of the Buddha full time. So he failed his own mother and his own stepmother as well. But by the time after the Buddha came back and to visit his father and his stepmother, later on his stepmother was the first nun in the Sangha order, in the Sangha.
He asked his son Ananda to get some.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that story sometime in the future lectures. Really wonderful story. But anyway, that lady, his stepmother, became a 4th-stage Arhat very quickly after she became a nun. And she became the leading nun of the Buddhist Sangha then. Okay? And she had her husband's blessing to live home life, to become a nun. His father never became a monk, but then he became an Arhat as well. So, in essence, he had to fail them before he can save them. So that's an exception in that sense. I don't think many of us can have that kind of ability. So it's not about...
Where we get the expression, the end results justifies the means.
In this case, yeah. But see, the Buddha's wisdom is that actually what in Buddhism, what the Buddha's life story is really called manifestation of Buddhahood. All Buddhas go through the same scenario. They be born, they wait in the heaven like Maitreya Bodhisattva is doing right now. He's waiting up in the Tushita heaven, waiting for his turn to become Buddha here in our world. Okay? So he has to wait in the heaven, Tushita heaven, to become the next Buddha. Then he goes down here, be born in the human realm as and then leaves his family, and then become a Buddha and come back and save his family.
So all Buddhists go through a stage.
Maybe not necessarily become a crown prince and everything, because maybe in the future there won't be a crown prince. Okay, but actually they have to become a person and lead the lay person's life, become a shramana, and then that process is called an 8-step process. 8 manifestations of Buddhahood. You go through that process.
So does that mean you have to be?
Yeah.
Licensed?
Because that's the process. For example, in the God's realm in the heavens, there's no temples. Okay? They're much better off than us. They live in palaces, but they cannot go. There's no temples in the heavens. They do have dharmas. Okay, because the Buddhas does go up to the heavens and preach Dharma. Or they can fly down here to listen to Dharma lectures. But there's no temples. So the Buddha, the process of the manifestation becoming a Buddha is that you go to the human realm, then you become a Buddha. Yeah, that's why you have to realize that getting a human body is just a fantastic thing, because this is our best chance to practice the Buddha Dharma. You go to the heavens. Granted, it's much more blissful, much better off. You're much better off because you wish to have clothing. Clothing comes. It fits you perfect. Custom tailoring on the spot. Okay. Food, heavenly food is. I don't care how good of a chef you can find here on earth. The heavenly food is so much more refined, so much better, and it comes at will. You wish to think about food, it comes. That's what happens in a Christian God. Heaven. And so it's so blissful up there, so wonderful. Because of that, it is so great. That's why the gods and the goddesses don't practice the Buddha Dharma at all. They won't. Why? It's the same thing you ask Bill Gates and the rich people to come and practice and cross their legs and bear their leg pains. How many of them would do it? If you ask them, they say, let me give you $1 billion, 20 billion. How about that? Shut your mouth. Don't tell me that I need to cross my legs to liberate myself. Can I buy you off? Can I buy you silence? Let me buy you Buddha. That's what happens.
Was the Buddha where he left him?
No.
He had to go out and
yeah, he has to go through the process of practice.
So he didn't leave home and leave them as a Buddha anointed.
No.
He went out and transformed and then came back and transformed all of them too.
The wonderful thing about the human condition is this, folks. Every time you're born, you're confused like heck. You have to start over again. Wisdom is unfolded. It doesn't come predisposed, except for the Buddha. Every time you're born, you stay in your mother's womb, you're confused like heck. Happens to you, happens to me, happens to arhats, happens to bodhisattvas. Interesting, huh? That's a human condition, folks. So what's the point in practicing? What's the point in cultivation? Because if you go through that cultivation process now, okay, first of all, you acquire samadhi and wisdom and you make the right choices and you have more control about where you're going to be reborn, first of all. It's the very first thing. Okay? So that's why we advocate that you be reborn in a pure land, because that ends all kinds of frustrations for you in terms of risk of being reborn, not only knowing where you're going to go next. Okay? That's the best bet for all of us. Number one. Number two, even if you don't get reborn in a pure land, because it's not a shu-in, it's not for sure you can get there. Okay? You do want to practice because whatever your attainment you reach at this lifetime here, it's a high water mark. You plant all these seeds, you're accruing all these infrastructures in your alaya consciousness. Okay? You're creating all these foundations, building blocks for you. Suppose in the future you be reborn in human realm again. Alright? You may be born confused. But then what happened is that you create all these ties already in the past. Let's say you go to a Sutra lecture and you bow to the Buddhas, and you plan your blessings with that, say, Venerable Shenhua, for example, which I did. Okay? So the next time you're born, you encounter him again. Guess what? You have savings account with this guy. You go and you withdraw. You use it. Okay? So with a bigger savings account, what happens to you? Your progress is a lot quicker. There's no magic here. It's all earned with your blood and sweat. Okay? So don't be surprised that you're not progressing that quickly with this Dharma and as compared to that Dharma. For example, some of you have been practicing for a long time in the various Dharmas, and yet you're not making much progress. You come and learn Chan, and all of a sudden you gain samadhis. It's like that. Okay? It's not just like that. You're withdrawing from your own savings accounts. You're saying, okay, I planted blessings with, let's say, Qigong or Tai Chi. I go there, I learn, and I accrue my blessings. That's fine, okay? But then you encounter another field of blessings, and you go there and you start harvesting. And all of a sudden, you get more out of it. That's from your prior accrual source. It's not a coincidence at all. Okay? So, for example, you practice, TM for 20 years now, 30 years. Okay? You haven't planted the right kind of blessing with TM to be able to reach the kind of levels TM they can give you. Don't blame them. Just blame yourself. Does it make sense to you? Otherwise, how could you justify you reaching second dhyana here in this dharma here versus 30 years in a different dharma, and yet you get nowhere? All right? You think it's free? You think that you can reach second dhyana just like that? You can't. If that's the case, there's that the law of cause and effect doesn't hold anymore. All right?
Pure Land. Do you ever get before?
You go to Pure Land, like say Amitabha's Pure Land or one of these Pure Lands, you have one birth and then you become a Buddha. That's it.
So one more human birth?
No, that's it. You're born in the Amitabha's Pure Land, the lifespan there is so long that you can practice until you become enlightened, until you become a Buddha. No more birth. However, there are always exceptions. Okay? Sometimes there still are birth. Why? No, there's no more karmic deaths. There's no more deaths in Amitabha's Pure Land.
Don't live up to what you're supposed to.
No. What happened is that you become impatient.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. You decide to be reborn. You choose to be reborn. See, this is the beauty of Mahayana. It's a very good question. Okay, you have to ask questions. Okay, you can ask whatever you want in the Dharma lectures. Okay, I want to remind you again. It's no taboos in Mahayana lectures. You can talk about anything you want. Okay, within the rules. For example, we don't say bad words and stuff like that. Okay, but there's nothing off limits. Okay, now. This is an interesting thing about the Pure Land Dharma. if you can make it to the Pure Land, you can be reborn in the Pure Land, okay? You have the optimal conditions for you to practice, for you to become a Buddha. One lifetime. Right? What it means is that the Pure Land, what the Pure Land Dharma advocates is that, number one, do not try to save others. You see what it sounds like? It says, save yourself first. Because some of you might say, hey, what about my mother? Hey, what about my husband? Okay? I can't leave my husband. Okay? Yeah, that's why you can't leave the home life. We understand that. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So there is a dharma for you. Go to the Pure Land, and you don't have to worry about it. Why? Because you go to the Pure Land, you become enlightened first. And then you go back and save your husband. That's better for everyone. Because
you have a guaranteed return trip.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get to that. It's a very good question. Now, why are we advocating that? Because of the misconception. Even tonight, Linda forgot that we're supposed to offer incense to the Buddha. She's so captivated. It's funny. Because the common misconception is that you helping and you are making a difference in someone else's life. You're not. You're adding confusion on top of confusion. Yes. You're not helping at all. How can you help when your head is unclear? Let me ask you that. If you're still unclear about your own decisions, your own understanding, how can you help someone else's understanding?
Is it help to help them clear up a little?
You help a little. That's about it.
Yeah, well, that's a little help.
That's a little help. That's better than nothing. I'm saying that there's a better way to do it. Why don't you clear your head first? Because what you think is better, a little better, may not be a little bit better. Okay? Help yourself first. You have to clear your head and be a wise person before you can help someone else. That's much better. Okay? Because time and time again, I look back and I see a lot of my actions about my ex-wife or my relatives, my family. I thought a lot of them really are motivated by love, the desire to help others. Okay? But it turns out, now I look back, I wasn't helping at all. This is my own personal story. Okay? I was helping myself, frankly. More than I want to help others. That's why that's my challenge to you. Next time you want to help someone else, okay? Ask yourself first. Is it out of how much of it is to help myself first? That's my challenge to you. How much of it? Is it zero? I can tell you that the answer is never zero. Never. It is that as long as it's not zero, you're having the chance of hurting that person because of your self-interest. Self-interest.
Gratitude? Is that what you're trying to do?
What?
Are we doing it for gratitude? Did you show off?
No, because we believe in it.
Mothers do that to their children.
Yeah, that's a natural thing. That's what we're supposed to do because we believe that's what we ought to do.
Long when they're the age of being.
It's a difference between believing something is right and being able to do something right. That's a big difference. You know it's right. You know you're supposed to be grateful. You can't. Okay? Being grateful for example, is not is not a cup of tea for most Westerners. In the Western civilization, we are supposed to learn to take care of ourselves first and be grateful second. At best, second. Never first. That's not our culture. Culture is me, me, me. Any challenge? Any?
I think I'm spoiled, but I still think that I am grateful for being spoiled. You know, I'm glad I'm spoiled.
Yeah.
Grateful.
Yeah. But not grateful enough. If you ask me, it's not enough. I'm not saying zero. See, you guys have to be very careful when you listen to lectures. You're not sure about something, ask. Are you saying it's zero? Are you saying I'm ungrateful? No, I'm not. I'm saying you're not grateful enough. And I challenge you to disagree. You don't have to agree with me.
If we disagree, it's maybe
Okay. Well, you do have a choice. So in Pure Land Dharma, you say, come on, clear your head. Make sure you understand first before you help. Okay? That's very important. Until you understand, chances are that more often than not, you think you're helping, but you're not. That's the problem we have. Okay? That's why after you become enlightened, then you have a choice. After the people who were born in the Pure Land become enlightened, then they look back and say, aha, my ex-hubby is in trouble now. And guess what? Some of them brought forth the resolve, the compassion, the heart, and say, I can't sit here and wait. He's suffering so much. Let me be reborn and help him. So you do have the choice constantly when you're reborn in Pure Land. It's not like you will reborn there and you stuck there for life until you become a Buddha. Not at all. You can leave anytime you wish.
So this brings up the question of compassion versus meddling.
Yeah, what about it?
So you look down, you say, regardless whether you're in the Pure Land or not, but you say, I need to go help them.
Yeah. Of course.
true metal.
Of course. But so what? You're meddling with a clear head. There's a difference between meddling with a confused, muddled head, or meddling when you are clear-headed. I teach you not to meddle. Why? Because I look at you and say, you're still muddled. Don't meddle yet. I don't say the yet because I want you to leave because you disagree with that. Okay? Now you sit long enough, then I add one more word. Yet. Okay?
You tell me what's all right.
Absolutely. That's what happened to me. My shifu said, don't meddle. I wouldn't listen. I got into all kinds of troubles. All kinds. And after after a while, I looked back to him. I said, Shifu, can I meddle now? He said, yeah, go. Go meddle like crazy. I allow you now to meddle. And that's the only way I dare meddle, by the way. Because my head is still not that clear. It's relatively clearer, but it's not that clear yet. So anyway, yeah, you want to be able to make a significant difference, not simply add oil to the fire. That's when you want to meddle. Okay? So the Pure Land is a wonderful Dharma in the sense that you can leave it at any time in your progress and you can come back. So what happens is that's why Let's say you decide to be reborn. So you say, okay, conditions are right down there. There's a rainbow Shenhua who is about, by the time I'm reborn, I'd be 55 and he still have 5 more years left. Okay, I still can come and learn from him, that kind of thing, So you choose the optimal condition for you to medal. Because then you can make a difference. Alright? Mahayana is about making choices. It's not about binding you up and cuffing you up. Alright? It's about making you aware of your various options. And you decide. I don't decide for you. The Buddha does not decide for you. The Bodhisattvas do not decide for you. You simply lay out your options for you. And you just decide. Besides, you're the one who decided to come to the lecture. I didn't force you. Same thing. Leave anytime you wish. Alright?
So is the Pure Land beyond?
The Pure Land is the creation of the Buddhas out of their compassion. They say that as we evolve in samsara, is a lot of suffering and zero control. Right? Because every time, you're born, you're confused. And you create bad karmas and you undergo your retributions. So a lot of suffering and zero control. So the Buddha created an environment where we can go there and practice and become enlightened quickly. It's easier to become enlightened in the Pure Land than here. Here, you want to practice, you don't even talk about practicing. You decide to take some time off, some vacation. All of a sudden, your cell phone rings and your girlfriend says, "Where are you?" That's what binds you. We are constantly interrupted. Okay, here in our realm, human realm, you go to the Pure Land. Everyone practices. Everyone is on the path to Buddhahood. So you do the same thing. There's no 3 evil paths in the Amitabha's Pure Land. And therefore, it's perfect. You won't fall. You can only make progress. All right? Anything else?
I have friends who are Buddhists who don't believe
Mm-hmm.
and
What kind of Buddhism? Buddhism has about several hundred different branches. For example, in Japan, the precursor to Buddhism is some sort of faith in natural gods. Okay, they have deities. They believe in gods in Japan. Before Mahayana came to Japan, they believe in the local gods. And then that evolved into that, and then adding the Buddhist gods. And then they call themselves Buddhist, but they're not. Okay, so there are many variations. What you're learning here is the Mahayana main branch. This is right at the center of Buddhism, not at the branches. That's why it's important to get reference points. If you call yourself Buddhist, okay, which branch of Buddhism? Is it Hinayana or Mahayana? All right? If they don't even know what Hinayana or Mahayana, then they're so far away from it.
this is a branch of Mahayana.
Okay, Mahayana is about rebirth. So they're confused. Mahayana is all the Buddhist teachings. That includes rebirth and Pure Land and Chan and Tantric and even Tibetan. Okay, all those are included in Mahayana. Including what? Non-believers as well. But Mahayana is everything. So to say you Mahayana and you believe in rebirth, And I don't believe you are Mahayana. Be careful. It's very important to get a reference points. Okay. For example, in the future, I've been doing some research on, let's say, the Heart Sutra, because I plan a lecture on that, because it's a very short sutra in Chinese, 200 and about 60 Chinese characters only. Okay? It's very short, and yet most people do not understand it. I researched it. Okay? I ran to this English translation of a Chan master's explanation of that, translated by a very famous Chinese translator, Luk To, whatever his name is. He claims to be a disciple of Venerable Xu. He's a Chan guy. I read his lecture, okay, in English, his translation in English of that Chan master's explanation of the sutra, 260 characters, Chinese characters. I read his translation. I had to give up after half an hour. I had such a big headache. It's not because the Chan master's explanation is confused. It's the translator who's confused. So you have to, we go through here in the West so many iterations of when we get to Mahayana doctrines. It is so, you have to be careful where it comes from. This guy here claims to be a Xu Yun disciple. Xu Yun is my master's master. Okay? So this guy, this translator is more or less at the same level as Venerable Shenhua. He hasn't even reached first dhyana yet, by the way. And his translation is so confused because that Heart Sutra is very, very tough to understand. And then you add on top of it the explanation that has to go into greater details on these principles. If you don't learn it you don't have the proper foundation, you'll be so confused. And that's what happens. A lot of English translation of Mahayana is very confusing. And they have no one to ask. You have a question? Who do you ask? Who? You tell me. Right now. Who can you ask? You read a sutra. Like Venerable Shenhua's Sutra lecture, his book. Whenever I saw a copy right there. You have a question, who are you going to ask? You go to a temple, you ask someone, I don't speak English. Sorry. You speak English? Okay. Then how can you be sure that the explanation is correct? Whereas you read the sutra, it's Venerable Shenhua's lectures. It is so simple. One word after another, very simple. It grabs you right away. Once you understand, the explanation is extremely simple. It hits you right at the heart. Doesn't beat around the bush. It's confusing is because the person who gave it to you is confused about the principles. All right. Anything else? So the two things here, you are able to leave the families, cut off your ties, and then change your lifestyle. That's what is meant by leaving the families and change the house, your life. Okay? And that's a narrow sense. Okay? The Dharma behind it is much broader than you think. Alright? Leaving home has a very broad sense. The first meaning is that you leave the worldly home and then you let go of that and you enter the world of true principles. What's the difference between worldly and home and true principles home? Anyone? I have a mathematician in the audience. Would you like to venture an explanation?
True principles.
What's the first thing, the very first thing in mathematics that you learn? When you define a theorem, a principle, mathematics called theorem, okay? The principle, what is the first thing you do when you define a theorem, when you define a principle? You define the domain. The domain mathematics is the area where the theorem is valid. The confines of its validity is defined in the domain. Okay? Each theorem is only valid in that domain only. Okay? That is worldly knowledge. True principles is, the domain is the whole universe, the whole Dharma realm. That's the difference. The world here, remember the world here is, and I don't care where you are, whether the three realms, or human realm, or the God's realm, whatever, okay, it has its own confines. That whatever principle you learn in those confines are only valid there. You get out of it, you don't know anymore. The true principles are absolute. Wherever you go, they're going to hold true. What have you learned, for example, that's absolute so far in lectures? The Four Noble Truths. It's true everywhere. Any world you live in. You go outside the Sahara world to another world, another Buddha land, same thing. The truth about suffering, about accumulation, about extinction, and about the way. All right? It's true everywhere. Number 2, leaving the 5 skandhas home and entering the Dharma body home. 5 skandhas is your body, yourself, your flesh body. You leave that, you enter the Dharma body, which is your Buddha nature. That's the difference again. You stay home, that's what we do. The karma we create is we take care of our 5 skandha body. That's karma that we create at home. When we sever that ties, we take care of our Dharma body now. That's the Dharma we undertake. All right? Number 3, leaving afflictions home, entering wisdom home. Well, need I explain? It's tough to face the facts, but the fact is that at home is a lot of afflictions. No matter where you dice and slice it, it's a lot of afflictions. It's not coming from your daughter, and it's coming from your dog. Not from your dog, it's from your husband. Today is good, but tomorrow, you never know. Okay? And a wisdom home, the affliction is the absence of clarity. Once you become afflicted, you go downhill. It's very tough to get out of. That's what I alluded to earlier. Once you feel tired, you're afflicted. You may not admit it, but you say, you become grouchy. You let yourself become afflicted. You let yourself be trapped. Lack of clarity. Okay? Recognize that affliction, then you can do something about it. Alright? That's why the people, some of them are able to sever the family ties easier because they realize that they make a choice and say, now I have a chance to leave affliction behind. Okay? I'm choosing a path of clearing my head. Leaving death home, entering non-birth home. Alright? That's the meaning of leaving a home life in a broad sense. Alright. Those people who know the mind and penetrate its origin, okay, they realize that this is probably a little bit higher than the normal audience can appreciate, but you guys have a certain level of concentration power already. Therefore, you know that you begin to be more sensitized to the way that your mind works. For example, some of you said, you tell me to recite the Buddha's name, but then I can recite the Buddha's name and think about something else at the same time. Easily. I can do it every single time I do chant. Not true, anyone? Not true? Raise your hand. What is that? You are describing how more refined your mental process is. That's what you're describing. You can do two things, at least two things at the same time. But you can do it better now, much better.
Yeah, multitasking.
And you're so proud of it, aren't you? I can multitask. I mean, I'm not that far from Windows Vista nowadays.
But it's tough not to multitask. You want to single mind on one point.
You can't. It's not tough. You can't.
Women do it better.
No, that's what they think. Now, hey folks, the fact of the matter is that I just described to you how you rationalize your multitasking. You think that is awesome to multitask, to be able to multitask. I just said to you that you can't. You multitask because you cannot be single-minded. But the more kung fu you have, the more your mental process become more refined it becomes. Alright? That's why we practice. Become more mentally alert. Your mind is a lot faster. That's what it boils down to. You can do a lot more. You can think. You can do your mental processing. Your mental processing is a lot faster. It's a lot more efficient. That's what happens. Okay? And you become aware of. Tonight I want to bring to your attention two mental processes you ought to be aware of. One mental process is that what in Buddhism we describe, this is the actual terminology for that, okay? The mental process, one is called the mind, everywhere calculating and attaching. That's one mental process you have. Number two, okay? Again, I repeat for your sake. The mind or the nature, everywhere calculating and attaching. Okay, number one. Another process is a mind arising dependent on others. Yes, that's the second mental process. Okay, number one. The mind everywhere calculating, attaching. You need an example of that for that? Yeah? That's what you are right now. That's everything you do. Your mind is constantly calculating what's in it for me. Aren't you? Isn't it more advantageous for me to do that versus this? Your mind is constantly calculating. Whenever it faces something, that's on your mind. Flip. It computes. Alright? And not only calculating. It attaches. It says, that's the best choice for me. That's what I want. That's what I want. And you attach it. Now you can't live with it. That's what advertises love for you, for it to happen to you. They want you to calculate and then attach to their product. That's why they constantly bombard us with enticements. And that's what girls do to boys.
Boys don't do the girls.
No, never. I remember, and no one's laughing on outside. It's true.
Yeah, right.
We've calculated it's true.
It's amazing, guys. I was in Taiwan learning Chinese. Went to this Taiwanese university. Okay, so there's no school for only for months. So we have to deal with mingle with the girls and the boys and boys and girls sitting next to each other. Every single semester, trimester, I had to deal with 3 or 4 girls. And now talking about really international, I have Caucasians, I have Orientals, I have you name it, different colors, different background, different faith, okay, and the younger ones as well, okay. And it's amazing. I noticed and how they, for some reason, they express some interest in me personally. That's how I could see how they present their wares. Each different culture has a different way of approaching it. It's amazing. Okay? And so it is at that point, now Gwen is so intrigued. At that point in time, it was very tough for me because it's still very tough right now. But because you're constantly bombarded by that every single day. Okay? Like me. See how nice it is. See how nice I smell. See how nice my shoes are as compared to yesterday's shoes. Oh, it goes on and on and on and on. Okay? And what it makes you do is that your mind calculates that, nicer shoes than the day before. Oh, yeah, that's true. And then you say, I do like this pair better. So your mind is constantly calculating and attaching. That's in our nature. That's what we poor men have to go through. And the second mind, see, there's so much sympathy on this side. It takes a man to know the man condition, And what is that mind arising dependent on others? That's the nature of our confusion. Once we are confused, we act on top of it. The number 2 is what sinks us. Remember, you're tired, and then you say, I can be grouchy now. I don't have to be nice to people anymore. I have to conserve my energy. So you add one more layer on top of your confusion. And then one more, and then one more. I don't like this person. He's not nice today. I don't have to, I work so hard all day. I don't need to come and be near a person who's unpleasant to me. One more layer. You see? That's how we sink. You have to realize that kind of accumulation is what brings us down. That's what brings us into trouble. We get into trouble because it's not because we get tired. It's because how we react to being tired. That's how we get in trouble. That's the mind arising dependent on others. Yeah. Pain, you have a painful experience and you scarred for life. Every time you see that, you have this kind of reaction. It predisposes you right away. It predisposes you. Put you in a loads of program right away. Pain handling program. And that runs in the foreground. Preempts everything else. That's mind arising dependent on others. It takes precedence over other tasks. It preempts others. All right?
So even when you put out the like the warning that says, I don't feel good, so I'm not mad at you, but It sounds like a.
Yeah, it's better than at least you aware of the fact that it is you getting a state that could get you in trouble and you're doing something about it. Okay, that's much better. Even better than that is that you learn some kung fu and then you recover your balance. It's even better. This is why do you have to shut yourself out and limit yourself to a corner and say, okay, I don't want to get in trouble, therefore it's safe for me to be in the corner. I'm saying that if you have real kung fu, regain your center. Get back to your center. And then get engaged. Continue. Wisdom is about alertness. As soon as you're aware you're off balance, restore your balance and continue. Do not allow yourself to be confused. That's what wisdom is about. Alright? So, you need to know the mind and penetrate its origin. Once you understand these processes, then you go back, you see how it arises. The more refined your mental processes become, the more you see how you come to make decisions. You penetrate back how your mind works. Okay? And who understand the unconditioned dharma. Unconditioned dharmas are the dharmas that are not conditioned. Conditioned dharmas are dharmas that are dependent on others. Name an unconditioned dharma for me. Anyone? Four Noble Truths? Is it conditioned or unconditioned? Unconditioned. Very good. Anyone else? Because the truth is absolute. Doesn't depend on anything else. Doesn't depend on you understanding it. Doesn't depend on me understanding it. Does not depend on me being able to explain it to you. It's the truth, regardless. Whether you appreciate it or not, approve of it or not. Conditioned dharma. Yes. Yeah, the 10 realms are predicated upon your existence. Yeah, it depends on the existence. There's some existence that you can separate into 10 realms. Right? Most of the things you know are conditioned. Almost everything you know. What you don't know is mostly unconditioned.
Okay.
What's another word for unconditioned dharma? What's another name for it?
Double talking tonight.
Everything is double talk. You ask me. Another word for unconditioned dharma, sutra, is what? Conditioned. Why?
That's right, because it's
Yeah, it has to be spoken by the Buddha. If it wasn't spoken by, and then there's no sutra. What's a name, not a name for unconditioned dharmas? True suchness. True suchness. Suchness. What's another name for it? Buddhahood, your Buddha nature, is unconditioned. Alright?
I've read that over and over and over again and don't still quite understand such.
Give it time. Alright, that's the end of the lecture. Basically, we cancel the contract. So what we do is we be here until the end of August. So we have 3 more lectures. We have 2 more lectures here, and then we take 1 week break, and then we have 1 last lecture here, and then we'll move back to my house unless we find somewhere else. Okay. So basically, what I like to do is to change the format For 2 more weeks we come back here. For 2 more Thursdays, okay, we come back here. And then that Sunday of that second Thursday, I start lecturing at my house or another place, okay?
Sunday.
Yeah, that's Sunday. And then I start lecturing on, Saturday, sorry, Saturday. Thank you. Saturday. So I'm switching from Thursday to Saturday, 9 to 11 for lectures. Because I like to do 2 hours because I need to cover more grounds. Because you have so many questions. Normally, because this is new to all of you, to most of you, these concepts. Therefore, you have a lot more questions than the normal audience. So I wanted to do 2 hours, 9 to 11. And then 8 to 9, we do a Pure Land, the assembly dharma, if you wish. All right?
Might I request that even if we start late, can we still have 2 hours?
No, 9 to 11 in the morning.
I understand.
2 hours is a lot, trust
We
me.
have to start on time.
No, that's all right. It's not a big deal. No, at the house, it's not a big deal because here we have to vacate the premise. We can't stay over. Okay, and she has to leave that's why we try to help her out so that she can leave quick. But at the house, it's or somewhere else, it's probably a little bit more flexible.
And it'll run over, I guarantee.
Yeah, he's no. She said true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you do it. That's true. I'm glad that you do. I enjoy it very much.
All right. Yeah. Right. Too late now.
Question, in the book chapter, I mentioned the city of 10,000 Buddhas, and I know where that is, but it mentioned a city of Dharma realm.
That's in Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Yeah. It's pretty close to downtown, actually. I was there. May his merits and virtues adorn the Buddha's Spirit land, repaying the 4 kinds of kindness above, aiding the 3 who pass below. May those who see and hear all bring forth a Bodhi heart. And when this retribution body is done, all be born in a land of utmost bliss. Thank you.